I just stuck a bull. This bull has been sounding gnarly, nasty. On my right, there's two bulls fighting. I can see them going, their bodies moving back and forth between the trees. And then all of a sudden I hear this. There's another bull right there. Walking through those aspens.
I shot him. Did you hear that?
No. We both just shot the same bull.
I shot him first.
He shot him first. Oh my gosh. What a heck of a pursuit, dude. All freaking day.
When your buddy calls you, says you got a buck down. And what does he got? A buck down.
Look what I found.
What a sweet coon, man. Opening day, heck yeah. Way to go, Steve.
Arizona Archery Club is a premier partner with Bowhunting AZ. When it comes to attention to detail and a fiery passion, Arizona Archery Club brings it all to the table. With all the latest bows and archery equipment, you can demo every single model in person free of charge in their multiple demo rooms. Walk through the process with an experienced bow tech and see which bow is right for you without the sales pressure. Their indoor archery range offers air-conditioned lanes where you can shoot out to 40 yards. Take this awesome opportunity to hone in your accuracy and technique. When you visit, be sure to mention that you're a listener to the Bowhunting AZ podcast. Let's all support local. Conquering your own dark mountain is no easy task. The backcountry requires grit and determination. Having quality supplements like Dark Mountain's Kodiak pre-workout, whey proteins, and nourishing recovery are all an essential part of your success in the journey to harvest from the land. Dark Mountain is a 2% for conservation company because they know that with a collective effort, we can cherish these resources for a long time to come. Use promo code BowhuntingAZ20 for 20% off your order at darkmountain.com. Remember, luck favors hard work. National Automotive Repair is a locally owned and operated auto repair shop in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona. Jake McLaughlin and his team operate their business with a foundation of honesty, quality, and integrity. From routine oil changes to larger mechanical repairs, National Automotive can solve your issues and have you back in operation. The shop is located right off of I-17 and Thunderbird off Sweetwater Avenue, or call Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5:30 at 602-978-3278. Big Iron & Co. is Arizona's premier pressure washing company. Whether it is concrete and driveway oil spot cleaning, soft cleaning of stucco siding, or cleaning solar panels, Big Iron & Co. offers premium services at the most affordable price guaranteed. Big Iron serves the entire state of Arizona. From the valley to the pines in the north, we've got you covered. Big Iron & Co. was born out of the need for traditional American and family values to become part of business once again. We take pride in our families, we take pride in our homes, and we take pride in our neighbors and community. All Bowhunting AZ podcast listeners will receive 20% off every Big Iron & Co. service. On top of that, any Bowhunting AZ listener who schedules their appointment by August 1st will receive an additional 50% off an exterior window cleaning treatment. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Big Iron AZ. Give them a call or text at 480-630-1226 or visit them online at bigironco.com to schedule and experience the best in the desert. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me in another episode of the Bowhunting AZ podcast. We're back at it again this week with Marc Carlton for part 2 of the elk calling series here. So last week we kind of touched on where Native by Carlton came from. We talked about some of Marc's hunting adventures. We talked about some of Wayne's hunting adventures and kind of the generation of everything, how it got started and the ball got rolling for the company. So let's jump right on in. Kind of talking about like the new product release, right? You had just come out with your own bugle tube, this one right here, and you had come out as well with the V3 platform, this new and revised call. Obviously, I can give my own opinions on it, which are just absolutely stellar. Like I had said, posted a little video of me doing some different calls with it and stuff, and I've noticed some of the calls in the past that I've used for elk calling, some other companies and stuff just needed kind of a breaking in period.
Yep.
The bag you sent me, I pulled one right out, threw it in my mouth and was like, boom, 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 just like hit it right away. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like that latex was too tight, like it needed to be worn in. Like that was just something me personally that I noticed from it. Then I pulled out the bugle tube and used that. And the first thing I noticed was just the tone. Like the tone is just like very fine tuned. You know, you pull out a guitar that you haven't played in a while and you kind of need to retouch it up a little bit or whatever. And I know we don't do that with our bugle tubes, but I'm just saying like once you get that guitar dialed in and you've retuned it, it sounds perfect. That's what I noticed with this. I was like, man, that thing just sounds money. And I felt like I could hit that tone with relative ease. You know, some of these calls, it's like you really got to kind of like position it right and make sure you're in the right place and all this and that. And that I just literally just threw up to my lips and it was like, boom, hit it. So teeing that up for you, kind of just talk about the recent development and the innovation of the V3 call frame and the new elk bugle tube.
Sure. And we kind of touched on it in that first section too, about the biggest question to answer right out of the gate is making sure you have something that fits. You know, we made, I guarantee you, like I said, everything comes from a turkey frame back in the day. That was pretty much one frame for the entire planet of elk calls. So as time's gone on, I think it's developed and it's changed, but I also think the development from all manufacturers is guys built around what they could run. Mm-hmm. So if one manufacturer, like one guy's a big guy, one guy's a little guy, everybody has a different palette at the end of the day. So I still think a lot of the brands out there, and they're all out there, right? But I think it came down to more what worked for that guy that owned the company, and he built around those sizes. So I started looking at that really objectively and saying, man, that's not everybody's the same. And, you know, I can run this one good or that one. And I kept asking myself why and all of that. And so much of that came down to fit. So we ended up coming out with just the V3 frame, but that's a domed over reed. And we'll go back on this a little bit, but I had to answer that question of what fit for a person. So like I said, we did one that was a small frame and a medium frame and a large frame. And that really, and we even ended up putting together just a sizer pack where a guy can buy all three with the meat, and we put them all in the latex that runs really solid across the board, which is that medium latex. Mm-hmm. And we ended up selling packs of those so guys could just get a pack, try one, try two. Okay, medium frame works best for me, and then they can dig a little bit deeper into that. So we put the V3 together, and that's kind of how the V3 came together. You know, just had a V-style frame to it, and we did 3 of them. Pretty simple. Not overly innovative on marketing on that front. But in doing that too, we expanded deeply into like the tape stuff. So we offer 2 different types of tape. The old soft style gaff tape. So that's what that is. That's just gaff tape. And you guys will find, like, when we get talking about this stuff, we're going to kind of nerd out on elk call building here for a minute. But I'm pretty much a pants down philosophy guy. What I got to what I got, and I'm going to tell you all of it. I'll be 100% about, you know, why diaphragms last, why they don't. I'll try to explain all of that, but you'll know everything that I know. So the tapes, we've been using gaff tape that we use for sound studios for a long time. Mm-hmm. We wanted to try to push that, come out with some better stuff. One thing I've always hated about the tapes is they always break down. They always start to separate, especially if you're running a reed all day long. So we put together Call Armor, which is a laminated material, lasts really, really well. Still working on that. We're still in development on new stuff currently, even. But always trying to push the envelope on trying to fit the user out there as well as we can, for sure. So, and that has gone from that into the tubes also. So when we did the tube, I wanted something that was small that we could hunt with. So this thing is only 18 inches long.
Yeah, this thing's awesome.
There's some awesome tubes out there, man. Some really big bat competition style tubes out there that run like a top. They hold really good back pressure. I just hated carrying them. So I wanted to find something that still sounded really good, but was at least a mid-sized tube, if not a small tube. So we had to play with length of handle, the mouthpieces, how big the diameter was. We did 3D prints for like a year and a half trying to figure out what the best combination was going to be. And that tube, honestly, it's a really simple tube. But there was a lot of like even the handle length, even an inch on the handle length made a difference in back pressure. So we just kept nurturing it, massaging it, and printing and jacking with it, and that's where we ended up. I'm really happy with the tube. We made it a little bit denser walled, so you didn't have to put extra rubber on it to get it to tone down. It wasn't too tinny. You say it has like a pretty good thump to it, and some beef and some tone.
Yeah.
It's because of that thick, heavy wall.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, that was done intentionally. When we did the injection molds, so tubes are done in a blow mold system. So blow molds think like milk jugs. Milk jugs come out of a blow mold. It's really hard to get them thick. So knowing that, like if we opened up the end of it, we were going to lose thickness on the walls. We ended up building that thing like you would a milk jug. So the very end of it, if you look at it, you can see where that thing's actually probably drilled out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we ended up having to do that, and then afterwards we were like, we'll just drill this thing out. That way we can maintain our thickness and not lose our tone.
Okay.
So it was just little bitty details like that we just kept on splitting hairs and splitting hairs and splitting hairs. So we really wanted something, like I said, that was sizable, really put together well. Like the heat shrink on the tube. I want the tube cover to last, not come off. I want the mouthpiece. We wanted all that to work. So we just worked, and that's where we've ended up. So we're finally there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like the look of it too. I mean, it looks sweet. Obviously, you said you have friends over at King's. I noticed you got the new XK7 camo on there. That looks freaking sweet. But yeah, I mean, this thing just sounds gnarly. Do you mind throwing a rip for us real quick?
No, for sure. And we're talking about that mouthpiece too.
Yeah.
One thing we did, so the mouthpiece is removable.
Okay.
So I think size and your mouth fitting into that mouthpiece is critical.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd pulled that out of there and just curious. And then when I pulled it out, I was like, I hope that was supposed to come out.
Yeah, right. But what that did is that also gave you a larger opening. So if you're a guy with a bigger mouth,
sure, you
can pull the mouthpiece out. It'll give you a different fit. And it'll change the back pressure in the tube.
Okay. Perfect. So, yeah, some guys do have that real wide, you've got that wide gated jaw, right? And so it's just having the option like that to just kind of switch up your mouthpiece that you're able to blow into is a game changer.
But it makes it, man, I should have brought that other tube. I've got a little bitty piece of tube that we run that's our mini tube. That's just an open piece without a mouthpiece, and you bugle through it with a V3 and you can't get any exchanges on the note.
I think I have it. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Keep talking. You're fine.
Go ahead. So in doing that, but as soon as you stick a mouthpiece in that little tube, that thing jams. Like it'll jump up and run. So the mouthpieces and how all that fits has really become critical over the years.
Yeah.
Did you end up finding that one?
Is this it?
That's it.
I cherish this so greatly because your dad signed it for me.
Gotcha. So. That's awesome. So I appreciate that. But play with that. Right. Like bugle through that.
Okay.
With just the reed. And then stick the mouthpiece in that tube out of the other one. Your limiter's on.
What?
Your limiter's on.
Oh, for the audio?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Let's see here. So stick this mouthpiece in it?
Yep.
All right. That makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You guys couldn't hear that, but it was just a showing of back pressure and the difference parts and pieces will make.
Okay,
so
that's wild.
On that V3 for me, now granted I've been running one a bunch, and this is our ultralight. Some guys have really been liking that medium one, but for me on the light latex, But it has a really nice deep throat to it at the end.
Yes.
Like the high pitch, like I think everything hits that high pitch well. I mean, there's a bunch of really good tubes, but that thing still has a really nice big whoa at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. What I noticed too is I felt like I've never been a good lip baller. It's always tough, especially for like, I think probably that's got to be just a beginner thing, right? Like I've only called for 1 or 2 elk seasons, but the first attempt at doing it on this mouthpiece, I hit it immediately. And I was like, holy cow, like that was so easy. I feel like, I don't know if it's just the shape of this, maybe you can dive into that, but I was able to accomplish that with fairly easily.
The shape, I ashamedly, admittedly used to be a band nerd in middle school, and I played the trombone. So my brain immediately went back to that mouthpiece, being able, they were built to make you to lip buzz. That's all you do through trumpet and trombone is that whole time. So that's where that came
I played
from.
trumpet, so I understand.
Yep. So it's right there. So that's
cool.
what that had come from. We had to play with the bore on that. Like that's a 3/4 inch bore in the middle of that. And guys, and I'm curious, we may expand on this later in the product line, but like if you go down to a 5/8, if you go down to a 1/2 inch, it constantly changes the back pressure. I've gone all the way down to a 1/4 inch on that. That thing will hit like 12 notes. It'll hit so many notes it's not usable.
Wow.
But it does cut back on the volume. So the 3/4 inch seemed to be just about best for everybody.
Okay, so the smaller you go, you lose volume on it.
You lose volume, but you gain more back pressure. So you can drive more notes.
Okay.
But it comes at a cost.
Yeah, sure.
But I feel like if a guy can hit 3 or 4 notes, he's pretty good. Man.
Yeah.
Like, how many elk do you really hear hit 7 notes?
Right.
you don't. I mean, they're there, but every elk has its own voice.
Yep.
So that was a piece of it. Now, as far as building, let's go back to the old style open frames, because there's still a bunch of them in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Guys, all the time when we did the first Rip It frame, they would talk about, man, your reeds tend to last longer than your competitors. Yeah. So I know what they were saying, and they weren't wrong. So the old open reeds, with the way they run, that those reeds run off of tension. So the more tongue pressure you put in, the more octaves you get out of the reed.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the problem with that is when we're building them, we'll build those open style frames like on a scale of 1 to 100, and this is actually pretty accurate on the call press. We'll stretch them at 100.
Oh, wow.
These new frames, the domed over stuff, and I'm starting to term these as back pressure reeds, and I'm putting us all into this category. I'm putting Phelps, I'm putting Rocky in it. There's a bunch of domed over stuff out there. Bo Brooks has got some new stuff. They run off of back pressure. The difference when we go to build these on that scale of 1 to 100, instead of being at 100 like you are on the old school traditional turkey reeds, now you're at 30. Like we're literally barely pulling the wrinkles out of them. So when guys are like, man, these reeds don't hold up, it's not that they don't hold up. The latex hasn't wore out. The problem is there's no tension in it. So as soon as saliva hits it, for all of these style reeds, they get soggy and they don't perform as well.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is just fairness for all manufacturers. No, I don't think any, and manufacturing-wise, we only get 2 sources domestically for latex. There's only 2 companies that make latex. So none of us are doing anything new or wild on latex. We're all buying the same latex.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is a misnomer. I mean, I don't think one brand necessarily lasts longer than the other. I think it's just people aren't aware of the technical stuff when we go to build these, the difference that makes. And it all comes down with the tension. One thing about the dome reeds that is going to be very different than the old school stuff, they do not build out in double reeds.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the Rip Its.
Does not do it.
The Rip Its were double reeds, weren't they?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's enough pressure out of that because it's just the strap over the top. We're actually doing a Rip It 2.0 that's kind of a hybrid reed.
Oh, cool.
So that's coming. In fact, I just finally got release from shipping today that they'll be in this week. But we've been playing with that. So we have a new version that's still a tension-based reed. Okay. But it is truly a hybrid reed. It does a little bit of both.
That's cool.
So we're making some changes there.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember last season. Was it last season? Or season before last, we did the custom elk calls for Bowhunting AZ. Those were the Rip It platform. Yeah. Oh, those were great.
And the other thing, too, on guys getting stuff to last a long time. So I'm going to use a really improper analogy for this. It's half distasteful. So when you guys are looking at ingredients on websites of every manufacturer out there, things to pay attention to. So it's going to be thickness. So a .0025 is the very, very thin. .003 is probably the most popular out there. It's right in that medium scale in my brain. And then like 004, 005 really gets on the heavyweight stuff. Okay. The lighter stuff runs better in my opinion. And even you'll see prof mentioned out there. Mm-hmm. Like it'll be PROPH. That is prophylactic.
Prophylactic, yeah.
We are still using condom today in some reads, so guys need to be aware of that. So in trying to get life out of your mouth call, that is still basically the latex. It's still like a condom. Like guys kill me with this all the time. Like, man, my reed wore out. I don't know what's going on. What's that? Well, and so I started thinking about it. I was like, dude, would you take a condom, put a dip in, chew on the thing, trash it, bash it, throw it on your dash, drive around, and then use it and expect it to perform to the task it was designed to do. Right? No, it's not going to happen. So guys need to be a little conscious that as soon as you put that latex in your mouth, it starts breaking down. If you chew, it's going to break down faster. If you throw it on your dash, sun will annihilate it. Yeah. When you're buying calls in the store at the mom and pop's dealers for fluorescent lights, there's a reason condoms are packaged in a foil wrap. Fluorescent lights will break down the latex.
Oh, really? Wow.
So when you're taking them off the rack, eyeball them, put your eyes on it, make sure they look par. Yeah. Make sure they look okay. If you see a bunch of distress cracking and they're fried, man, the lights killed them.
Okay.
So guys just need to be aware of that stuff.
Yeah. That's good to know. That's kind of cool, man. I had never like dove into the technicality of calls, right? Like I'm a bow hunter, so like some of the technicalities of archery, grains and spine and all these things, like I know that stuff, but nobody ever really breaks this down for us, which is pretty neat.
No, and I wish we had a camera over the shoulder just to work on a call press a little bit.
That'd be cool.
So guys can get a better visual of how that comes together. Yep. But that's kind of the gist of it. There's only so many latexes, there's only so many thicknesses. I think frame design in general, there's some really good call manufacturers out there now. Like with the patent era being gone, it's just getting better and better and better. Yeah. And I think it's going to transition too. And I know you kind of wanted to segue into a little bit of where industry going and what you kind of see. But I can tell you right now that there's so many up and coming small companies. There's so many private manufacturers. And it's already happened over on the duck call side. We've got 9 million duck hunters. So the custom build at home stuff has become crazy popular.
Like tying flies, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the turkey calling thing, it's happened too. And it's going to happen on the elk side. It's already happening.
Okay.
What I'm excited about that is I think it's going to push all of us as call manufacturers to be more innovative and to be better and to build better. We're really going to have to work harder. So I'm excited about the innovation that's going to come. But at the same time, too, I think those guys that are really passionate about this enough to do it in their garage and their kitchen table, I think there's going to be a lot of really good products to come along in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to dilute the marketplace for a lot, but I can guarantee you, man, like you get somebody that's really tied into this, that really cares, he only builds 500 reeds a year, they're going to be really good 500 reeds. So I do think that's going to happen. I think you're going to have entry-level stuff at the box stores with some of these guys, and that's great. But I think the diehard, I'm going to say the 10% guy, which is where you and I are, and probably most of the guys that listen to this podcast, I think there's going to be some really good product to come along.
Yeah, that would be cool kind of to watch the innovation of things, to see it happen before our eyes,
Yeah, and it will, man. I've been watching it. I think about some of the guys we help get started now and I do this, and like I said, pants down philosophy. I get guys that call me all the time like, hey man, I want to get into this. How do I get started? And we get them how to get, this is where to go buy a call press. This is who's making latex, and you start all those conversations, but man, they're building some good stuff. And
that's cool.
I think that's cool.
Are you guys still currently doing some of the custom calls for order and everything? How is that? Oh yeah,
for sure. I'm the ultimate black sheep in the industry right now. I'm so tied up in life and business. I'm building really good stuff, but nobody knows who we are. I am absolutely horrible at self-promotion and marketing. But yeah, we're still doing the custom burlwoods and the elk ivories, and really have gone into the custom side of, like I said, we don't want to build just elk calls. I want to build an elk call that is so good and so quality put together that you're handing it down to your kid. That, hey, this was my dad's favorite elk call. He had amazing adventures on this call, and it gets passed down. That's the kind of quality I want out of what we do, especially on the open reeds. You can't do it on the latex, obviously, but
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, the other stuff, man, it's because I do that myself with my dad. Like he's got a stash of turkey calls that I've got dibs on. They're mine, you know. They're screamers. They're stuff that's been nurtured and killed lots of turkeys and been on countless hunts and been a prized possessions of dad's. Man, that's mine. You know,
that's kind of what, when I first saw some of those custom calls that you were doing, especially the handheld ones with the different woods and the ivories inlaid in it and stuff. That's kind of what I immediately like flashed over to, was those custom turkey calls that everybody loves, right? You got a certain striker, you got a certain, you know, wood slate or whatever it is, you know, that was the first thing that kind of correlated in my mind, was like, well, that's the elk version of this.
yeah.
That's pretty
cool. I mean, that's what I like, man. And for calling, for me, like everybody, it is a tool. Mm-hmm. Like it's a great tool, especially out west, man. We're not hunting 1,500 acres and hunting whitetail back keys. We're hunting forever and again into the next state. Like they're huge tools out west. But at the same time, you know, I got to thinking about it one day. It's like, man, what does calling really mean for me? And what it really gives us more than anything is a connection. Mm-hmm. Dude, it is cool to bugle and to have something bugle back. Yeah. It's cool to cow call. It's cool to have that interaction. It really enriches the experience and that hunt so much more. That's the way I really started viewing it. I mean, some of these guys really take calling down to an art form. They really do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, man, but what is that? And to me, it's just connection to the environment. No different than, I think, shooting a bow is a more personal connection than shooting a rifle.
Sure. Yeah. I remember still very vividly today the first bugle that I ripped off and then heard something, and it was like immediately something in my head like clicked. It was like, oh, like that I got that thing to play with, you know, play back or whatever, or, you know, interact with me. And then this last elk season, I kind of had that again, where like I've called in one-on-one bulls, but this last season I was super lucky that called in 3 bulls at once from multiple directions. And my buddy was like freaking out. He had the tag and he was like, like overload.
The biggest one.
Yeah. And so that was cool for him. But then for me to be like, holy cow, like 3 at the same time, like they were all wanting to play like that. And like you said, just that connection of like having them all interact with you like that was just unreal.
No, there's such a big energy shift there. Like, and it's different, man. You have to admit, it's different calling to one bull that has 4 cows versus a herd where there's 5 bulls and there's a couple, like the energy shift is like off the chart different.
Yep. Yeah. That's my next goal is, I think of those 3, I'm pretty sure one of them was the herd bull, because I was a top notch bull for that unit, but I want to get in now. My next box to check mark is to get in on a decent sized herd and to try and pull that herd bull away, because I haven't done that yet, and I want that. Like I want to get it in, like slap him in the face and just piss him off. And I don't know if that experience last time was necessarily like that, because we pulled him away from the cows, but I want to try and do that scenario next. So that'll be fun. Kind of talk a little bit about the vision of the future. So you kind of touched on some of the things to come. You touched on the hybrid a little bit. What else do you kind of see down the road for Native by Carlton?
I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do what we did when we started. Like we've got 5-6 years in, got a lot of feedback from people of what they wanted, what they didn't like, and really try to build to that. We're going to do it again. I think the V3 dude is going to be pretty much a staple. Like I think it's been flawless, and I think the sizing thing was a smart thing to do. But I think now it's going to be. We still have so much too, like on the old school stuff, and I tell guys this all the time when we do podcasts, because a lot of the stuff goes back east for guys to listen. Those guys are so familiar, like those whitetail guys. I mean, they're seasonal guys. They hunt whitetail in the fall. They hunt turkey in the spring. We've got 6 million annual turkey hunters in the U.S. That's a lot of people, and most of those guys come out here and hunt. But they're familiar with turkey reeds.
Yeah.
And I will say this: I think the old school tension reeds, the double reeds, triple reeds, they run a lot differently than what you and I look as a better mousetrap in the domed over stuff. Like you and I look at that, we've run them enough. Now we know these cow call better. They're better control. Like they're a better mousetrap for calling elk. But a lot of those guys come out, man, they throw them in and they fail. And they fail for 2 reasons. I think because they're used to a wide format reed, that larger frame, and I think they're used to tension reeds. So I'm almost thinking as this goes along, like we had enough pushback on the original Rip It reed that I was like, oh man, maybe we'll just do new stuff and I'll just can that thing. I can't tell you how many Rip It reeds we have sold this year.
Yeah.
Like at this, I mean, I was literally like, I'm just going to wipe these off and dude, it's daily now.
Yeah.
But guys have gotten used to that tension stuff, and the turkey guys especially. And I tell them this, man, if you're used to that, don't upset the apple cart, man. Just go buy a really good double reed. So I'm actually thinking about doing some design more traditional and going back to some of the open reed stuff. Maybe build it on that medium platform, but without the dome, and play with those things some and kind of review that. Like, can we do the old stuff that's obviously still selling a lot?
Yeah.
And build that for those guys that are already familiar with those platforms. Okay. So we're playing with that. I've got a few more tube ideas. I'm still trying to figure out a traditional style tube that just pounds like that new one does, like the Hunter's tube. Yep. I love the Hunter's tube, but I hunted so much solo last year. Like I just wanted a tube right here.
Yeah. You're talking about this?
Yeah, right. And it's just stupid simple.
Yep.
So I've got some prototypes on the desk for that. I need to play with lengths and the mouthpieces a little bit, but even just dipping, I'm going to put the mouthpiece, I think, on sale on the website independently just for that small tube.
Yeah.
Because that thing's still for fast, compact, stick it away, not a big deal. Like, still works really well.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at. But more than anything, I think we're going to run what we've got for a season or two. Got some stuff we're playing with. I'm going to have to develop the new Rip It version, the 2.0, because I can tell already it's better about some things, but it's worse about some things. So we're going to have to dial that in. We're just going to play with what we've got. I think we got enough new stuff right now, dude, that I'm just going to cool my jets. I'll probably get harder back into the custom stuff again. Like I've got some combinations of some silver highlights and antler and Blackwood and stuff. I got some things in my brain I just want to carve out on the lathe. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I need to be better, dude, about being available to the public and getting out there more, do a better job advertising. But I think, all that said, I think call-wise, we're going to cruise for a season or two. We're just going to listen to guys.
Personally, just for me, as a customer, I think you've got a darn good thing going here with this V3 and the bugle tube. I think that's going to fill your order box there for quite a while. So
I do too. I think the V3 is going to be a staple for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of touched on some of the new product. Oh, do you guys still do custom turkey calls? I think I saw some there every once in a while.
That goes back to what we were just talking. I do a little bit. I was looking at that because we do a really good baseline turkey stuff.
Yep.
Part of my growing up, turkey hunting was always in the spring. Like, I was running a camera all fall, and I was guiding for elk all fall, and I was not on the trigger. But one thing Dad did do for me is he made it up in the spring. So when turkey season hit, we'd go hit 2 or 3 states. So I have a sincere passion for turkey hunting, and I'm very much into the custom craftsmanship that's out there. So I'm toying with that too. Like, man, maybe we just start doing some really crazy custom pot calls and doing some different things, and I'm kind of leaning into that. That's kind of been in my brain too. I've got all kinds of stuff going. I got to get on the lathe and get it done.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stuff going, you guys kind of partner with some different things too, right? You guys have the Elk Calling Academy that you work pretty closely with. Can you kind of touch on that and what?
Yeah. So there's a group of guys, and I. When my dad's era was there, man, it was the patent era. Everybody was really competitive. Mm-hmm. We were mentioning the linguists earlier.
Yeah.
Those guys, I think, what they really pulled, what Corey really pulled off more amazing than anything is the unity that those guys all got along really well. Those guys were type A, man. All three of them, they were uber competitive. And I grew up in that to the point that I really didn't like it. I don't think, and Corey stated it, he didn't like it either. So we've kind of looked at things very different. I'm very open. I want everybody to be a part. I feel like as a community, elk calling community out west, we are all in it together for sure.
Yeah.
So my recommendation for guys, for information out there, Elk Call Academy does some really good lessons, and he'll do online, in your face, 1-to-1, and really trying to get you dialed in. The Elk Brothers group is doing a great job also. They're a bunch of 60 years old and older guys, but they're very savvy. There's some really good callers in there and very good at educating. Elk 101, even Corey's that dude's done a landslide of information out there. There's more resources now, I think, to learn than we've ever had before. And I think we're pretty dialed in on teaching people.
Yeah.
I still think it goes down to find a reed that works, whether it's mine or Rocky's or Phelps. I don't care. Find a reed that works and find a tube that works for you and make sure it works within your hunting system. I think learning to call elk, my biggest recommendation, listen to elk. Mm-hmm. Listen to lots of elk. J Scott Outdoors, his Instagram handle, dude, that guy's got a bugling elk up there every day. I don't know how he gets so much footage. But I save those things all the time. I mean, even me, I do this for a living, but I save every elk bugle that I come across on Instagram. I video wildlife. That guy's great about posting cool elk that are bugling their heads off. Save that stuff, listen to it, get it in the car. That is what elk sound like. Yep. I feel like, and I'm kind of twofold on this. The elk calling competition stuff, man, it's a really good excuse to practice a lot. And I think it's cool, and I love it, and I super appreciate it. But elk, at the end of the day, we all have our own voice. You're going to develop your own voice as you call. Yeah. And if you listen to 6 elk bugle, they all sound different. Some of them are high pitches. Some of them sound like a Black Angus bull. Some of them, they all sound different. Some of them are just chucklers. Yeah. Like they all have their own little vibe that they do. So don't get too tied up in a very status quo elk bugle. Don't get tore up on that stuff, man. Just develop a natural cadence when you're learning. I think that is way more critical.
Yep. Yeah, I remember, like, I got my bull elk right here, but he was a satellite, and if I had heard him just in a one-on-one, because I had 2 herds coming together when I shot him, but he was a satellite, and if I had heard him just on his own, I would have thought for darn sure he was a herd bull, because he just sounded nasty, like just angry and just growly at the end, and I was like, whoa, like it just caught me off guard. And then I saw him, and I was like, oh, like he's just a satellite. So,
and there's a huge contrast there, and you'll see it go back and forth different ways. It's all that changes. But when I do my opening series cow calls and my bugles, my usual. My call set of like, hey, something should be here. I'm gonna call for a minute. Yeah. Everything I try to do, I really try to just keep some flow and just try to keep it organic. I don't go too crazy with that.
Do you mind touching on that for us real quick before we kind of wrap this up?
And I think that's a good question. So when I say keep a couple different voices, I think if you can get two different open reed manufacturer cow calls, buy one from one guy, go buy one from another, because they're going to sound different. Okay. But that gives you different voices. The same thing on bugles. Maybe you just work off chuckling on one, and that's a different voice. Maybe you change diaphragms. Maybe you change tubes. Like we were talking about, to be able to pull the mouthpiece out of that tube and not get any reed exchange, it's a different voice. Versus you get one with a bunch of exchanges on the notes. So develop that and keep a very open mind to dude, calls are just fishing plugs. You just want to throw it out there and have enough different ones to throw out there from A to Z that maybe they're going to bite on it. And even bugling, man, I'll go from a really high fluty locate bugle, but if I go through a calling sequence, nothing answers that, dude, I'll tear it up. My last few bugles will be nasty. Yeah. And because I've had elk completely ignore everything else I did, and then they hit the nasty. They're not supposed to. We're not taught that. We're taught to go easy and light. Yeah. But at the same time, man, for every rule that I have discovered, they have all been broken at some point. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even you. You get into stuff, you're like, that wasn't supposed to happen. My wind was completely in his face. He was not supposed to come into me, and it happens. Yep. So every rule is made to be broken occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's, I guess my approach there too would be like, okay, if this spot seems like there's nothing here, like why not throw a Hail Mary? Because I'm going to leave in 3 minutes anyways and hike out of here and I'm gone. So let's see.
Guys ask me this question all the time. Like, hey, what's your favorite call out of everything you use? And my answer, honestly, is the one that works. Mm-hmm. I don't have any pride one way or the other. I just want to call elk in and see elk. I don't care what they bite on. So my opening sequence is usually like an open reed call. So we run, whether like we have that green weenie that we sell, that's a kind of a price point product. This is our semi-custom that we do. Really good platform, still has an acrylic barrel, so it has some really good snap to it. I call in more elk, dude, with an open reed than I do anything. by a landslide. Like if you said, dude, you got one call to go to the woods, that's it. It's going to be an open reed cow call.
Yeah.
But my opening sequence. So I'll take those first notes and I hang them a little, right? Like I extend them. I extend them on purpose because if I don't hear anything, I want that note to extend and carry enough that an elk can hear it.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so I don't do just, yeah. I won't go small or light. I'll extend that and hang that out there. I just, over the years, I've gotten better response with that.
Sure.
And I'll wait, and I'll sit on that. And I'll go through another one, say 5 minutes later. And I'll hang. I'll just let that sit, let things kind of build up. If nothing happens on that, on those first couple of cow calls, I'll jump into a bugle.
And sometimes too, before you rip one, sometimes it's when is it ever just still, right? Every time
Right.
I'm hunting in September, we're going in from summer to fall. So even though we're at different parts of the country on the west, like there's a changing of winds, like all sorts of stuff is circulating around. So getting that call, like you said, to travel and sometimes, across a canyon or something,
Yep.
like hanging on that note a little longer is probably good to cut through a wind as well.
Yeah, so, we were talking earlier about it's the West. We cover a lot of ground. If I get into a drainage, I know there should be elk. If there's water, if there's feed, and there's nobody, like if I feel like there should be an elk there, I'll sit there, dude, for 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll grab a snack, I'll sit down, I'll chill out, and I'll just call every 10, 15 minutes like that and let that thing build up.
Yeah.
But in doing that, like I said, I'll do those early cow calls like that. I won't go too crazy. I'll just hang them out there, give it a chance for that to reach and let it to sink in and settle. When I start bugling, it's pretty light. And I'll just hang it out there. Sometimes I'll extend that a little bit. But it'll just be high and pitchy and shrill. I just wanted to punch.
Yep.
I like a really shrill high end anything. Whether it's a cow call, I like a really nasally high pitch. I think the high pitch for turkey, duck, geese, for everything, I think it strikes a note. I think that's one reason I've had such great success with the open reeds is I really drive a high note. But I think it reaches out there and punches them and generates a different kind of response. I think it's just more apt to. And then as that goes, I'll bugle some more. And I'll hang. And I'll throw in 2 or 3 chuckles. I won't do 7. I won't do a big, huge assembly.
Yep.
Because a lot of times, actually, I break all this up. Like my cow calls, I'll do that, and I'll break it.
Yep.
The reason I break it is a lot of times you'll get a response. If you're still calling, you missed it.
Yeah.
So I'll make those breaks in there. I'll still add those chuckles in. I'll change that cadence. I'll do those different things. But I'll do that with enough common sense to know, man, I don't want to miss it.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I approach that.
Yeah. How do you gauge when it's appropriate? So say you throw out a locating bugle and you've got a bull that's responding to you. How do you know when it's appropriate to start cutting them off? To basically kind of give that like shut up to him and like maybe you're starting to enter the realm of like challenging at that point, right?
A little bit. So this is a couple things that I think are critical points, right? So when we're calling elk, at least this is the way I view it. When you're calling, you are still putting pressure on them. I don't care if you're 2,000 yards away or 1,000. You are putting pressure on them. It's indirect pressure. You're not in their face. You're never going to give them a visual because you're not an elk, right? Like they're never going to see you. So everything we do is indirect pressure, but it is still pressure. So if I get something to bugle at 1,500 yards, I'll try to get them going to where they're responsive. And a lot of times they will, but I will shut up as much as I possibly can between 1,500 yards, and I will try to get to be at least, if I can get into 200 yards, I think 200 yards, 150 is like a bubble.
Yeah.
And you need to get inside their bubble. But if you call the entire way in, you're putting pressure on them the entire way. And 2 things happen with that. Either, maybe it's a satellite bull, he's by himself, you're going to be able to pull him in. But if it's a herd bull, if he has cows, which is more often than not, right? You got to be really cautious about how you apply that pressure. So I want to get inside that bubble before I start challenging him.
Okay.
So I'll sneak in. We all got $1,000 pair of binoculars on our nice little chest rigs, right? Let's use those things to our advantage. And let's move 50 yards in glass, 50 yards in glass. Be really light. If you cow call, man, go ultra light to try to, if you're doing the location deal, and sometimes you got to break that rule, right? But at the same time, try to go at it easy, try to go at it light, and listen and watch and take your time. But we screw up more here, right here, at that 1,500 yards to that 200 bubble, then that's where we lose our elk, in my opinion. So then once you're in that 200-yard bubble, I switch tactics. I don't go crazy bugling or do anything else. I go to a really lightweight diaphragm, and I start working calf calls. Because I don't think about it this way, man. Calves are like the 7-year-old kid in the room. They're just obnoxious. They're bouncing off of everything, and you really don't pay that much attention to them. I think that's what calves are for elk. They get away with murder, dude.
Yeah.
They get around up and down and crash through brush, and you've been into that where you hear a thundering and you think an elk's going to kill you, and it's a calf running into you. So they get away with murder.
Yeah.
So I lean really heavy on my lightweight cow calls, because here's the deal, man. Bulls that are bugling to you from 1,500 yards, they're not leaving you because you sound like something they want to entertain. They leave because those cows that are with him don't like the competition, and they pack up gear and they leave and they take your bull with them.
Yeah.
So calves get away with murder. They don't feel threatened by a calf. So I go in light and I go in easy, and I try to work that in first before I start ever bugling.
Okay.
But cows, man, they will pack up. They'll ruin your hunt, dude. They don't. Bulls don't leave you. The cows do. He just follows them because, let's be honest, man, the real thing is better than a phone call.
Yeah.
So that's my advice is lean heavy on the calf sounds.
Yeah.
Don't go too offensive on that. If you go in there, and I've done it. Every rule's made to be broken. That's the tactics I try to start with. I don't go into the heavy, really loud, obnoxious cow calls unless I have to. I don't go into bugling really hard unless I have to. I do all the time. It changes. You got to go with the flow, and you kind of got to go off the energy that they're giving you. But I find way better luck if I can close that distance without putting too much pressure on. And when I get in there, that 200-yard mark especially, because now you're at 200 yards, it's thick, it's nasty, you can't see anything. You know there's an elk there, and you don't want to screw up because you've covered this distance. Yeah. So go easy, man. I just start out with those calf calls, and I'm just light, easy, nothing throaty, nothing big, just light and irritating. I have found that makes a big difference and gives you a way better opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember last season we called a calf in, and that thing was freaking jumping around. And like you said, it was literally just kind of like a rambunctious little, like a hyper dog when you walk in from home, being gone all day or whatever. That thing was just going nuts, and I was like, what the heck?
Well, and the elk don't pay attention to that. They just put it up to kids being kids. Yeah. I don't think they give it two thoughts, So, and everybody's worried about bumping or educating that calf or them. I don't think they care. Yeah. In my opinion, I don't think anybody listens when the calf goes screaming over there at Mach 9. I think it gets ignored.
Yeah. Yep. It sure seems that way. But then like right behind it came all the cows, and there was actually a bull that was already ahead of us a little bit. But all the cows, after that calf came crashing through, they all came following it right up his saddle, and there they were. We were in the middle of the herd just like that. So that was pretty wild.
But that's the way that I view it. Like I said, it's always, you're always going to get the situation where the energy changes and the elk change, and they're being super aggressive, and you're playing that game. But I try to go in with a base plan, knowing that, hey man, we may have to change it. But that's where I start.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, awesome, Marc. Thank you for your time today. Can I tee it up for anything else that you'd like to talk about, or anything?
That covers a bunch of it. I bet we come up with something later, but we can always do it again another time.
I was gonna say we're definitely going to have to do another episode for sure. But we'll see what transpires next year. But I know I've got a trip out to Colorado probably around next summer, so I don't know what you'll be doing at that time, but it'd be cool to pass through and meet you.
Yep.
We always kind of come up through that way. So thank you, man, for your time today. I appreciate it. Thanks for jumping.
Appreciate you having me on. We've been trying to do this for a little while.
I know.
Haven't made it work, so I'm glad we're together.
Well, it sounds like we're both pretty obviously heavily involved in family. We both have jobs outside of this, and there's a lot that just goes on in general life. So that's understandable. Well, cool, man. Thank you so much for your time today. What's your Instagram handle again, so everyone can
It's
follow
just
you?
Native by Carlton. And two, I almost forgot to, let's do like an order code for the guys. Let's do like a 30% off order code, and let's just do whatever you want to come up with. I'll let you come up with it now.
Can you just do Bowhunting AZ?
Yep.
Cool. Let's
Small
just do
case.
that. Yeah, let's just leave it simple, all lowercase.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, check it out, guys. Make sure you go to Native by Carlton, grab some of those V3s or whatever you need for your kit. Some of the open reed calls, because honestly, that's what I called those 3 bulls in on, was an open reed call. So that worked pretty well. That sounded must have sounded sweet and sexy that morning. So make sure you go follow Native by Carlton on Instagram. And do you guys do hunting videos or anything? You have some of that in the works maybe in the future?
In the works. We
Okay.
do got a YouTube channel. I don't get near as much stuff up there as I should. I'm putting up a lot of the old Wayne Carlton videos
There you go.
on that.
I like
because we
that.
have no representation of that. All the originals have been, so I'm dubbing over VCR tapes and
Yeah.
trying to get those up just for nostalgia purposes.
That's cool. That's
You know,
cool.
So, yeah.
Heck yeah.
And if anybody out there is listening and ever has a video recording of Wayne Carlton seminar, man, I want dibs on it.
All right.
I'll throw free stuff at whoever's got it.
Well, I've got my hard drive over there, and then I've got even an older computer over there. So it's on one of those two. I can't remember if it's a video. I'm pretty sure it is because I recorded it with my video camera. But sometimes I just strip the audio from a video recording, and the video.
I've
never
had
sees
more
all
guys
of it.
ask, like, do you have because it was just, everybody just got to be so enamored. He was just so good at entertaining people.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, everybody's like, man, do you have an old video of your dad doing a seminar? I'm like, man, believe it or not, I don't.
Well, I'll dig it up and I'll find it and send it over to you. So cool, man.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate anybody taking the time to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Go grab one of these bugle tubes, guys. Go grab some of the calls. Mark, thank you again. Appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate it, man.
Have a good one. See ya. Thank you so much for listening to the Bowhunting AZ podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and smash those 5 stars on iTunes or Spotify and leave a little review at the bottom. It'll really help us out. For our short films, go subscribe over on YouTube. Just search Bowhunting AZ. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Bowhunting AZ. Good luck to everyone this season. Thank you again for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.